All right. Welcome to John Ferrian Live. You are here right on Facebook Live, on John Ferrian's page, watching the weekly episode of John Ferrian Live. Every Sunday night, we typically come to you 1 hour from now, 7 p.m. Pacific time. But tonight, we are going 6 p.m. right now Pacific time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern time. The reason is our guest tonight, Mr. Jesse Showtime Kirchmeyer. He's way out on the East Coast, and it's probably past his bedtime. Hardworking guy like that. He gets up early. He works hard all day. He needs his beauty sleep, just like me. You guys know the routine. All right, guys, get in here, watch the show, share the show, drop it in the comments, and let us know where you're watching from, especially tonight. It's really important for me to understand where everybody's watching from so that I can continue to bring you guys great content from your area, whether it be an East Coast or a Midwest episode or a West Coast episode. This show generally focuses on a lot of things around Western snowmobiling, backcountry awareness. We do a lot of safety. We do a lot of education. Overall, positive growth of the sport is what we're all about right here. So again, come on in and join us, share the show out, and again, drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. So, all right, I don't see any comments coming in yet. I'm going to jump on my phone and just make sure and see if we are public. Once in a great while, my computer likes to reset itself and say that we are not public. It says we are public, so we're good to go. All right, guys, drop it in the comments where you're at. I'm not sure why the comments aren't showing up tonight, so we'll just deal with that as it comes. But the show, we are here every Sunday night. I moved here from, I'm in Washington State now, and I moved here from Minnesota back in 2012. I joined the Washington State Snowmobile Association, joined the Northwest Avalanche Center here in the state, involved in a lot of things snowmobile related. But for tonight, one thing we want to talk to you a little bit about is a scholarship program that we have going on. This logo you see on my left, Live Large University BRAP. This is a t-shirt logo you can get access to just by going to the website in the middle of the link here on the page, Live Large item order. 100% of the proceeds go to the American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education for a motorized scholarship scholarship for motorized education. If you can get on there and buy some cool Live Large gear, you can get these shirts as well. The Live Large John Ferrian Live shirts are available. But again, 100% of the proceeds go to motorized recreational avalanche education across the United States, and we got some great partners all over the place. So the other thing I want to remind you of, too, is I'm going to drop that part of it, and we're going to talk a little bit about Woody's Racing. So Woody's Racing is a snowcross racing team that sponsors this show, and tonight they're sponsoring our Share and Win program. So just by watching, just by sharing, you're eligible to get in on some cool prizes. This week, what I want to share out with you guys and what you're going to be able to win, believe it or not, we're giving away some Idahoan potatoes from Idaho. So one of the sponsors of Woody's Racing is Idahoan potatoes. They've got a couple packets of those they're going to throw in along with a sweet Woody's Racing baseball cap. And so share the show out, and you will be eligible to win some of those great prizes. But now, without any further ado, I want to bring you the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jesse Showtime Kirchmeyer. There he is. How's it going, my friend?
It's doing good.
Dude, is it past your bedtime like I was saying, or what's going on?
I'm normally out right now.
I know, right? Like, you're a hardworking dude. When I mean, just this last couple of weeks as I reached out to you, I was like, trying to get a hold of you, message you, and like, there's always this delayed reaction because we're like 3-hour time zone difference, and you're at work when I'm awake, or vice versa. You're sleeping, I'm awake. And so this cross the country thing, we finally got connected, which is awesome. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me be here.
That's awesome. And so I reached out to you because I personally am a big fan. Like, over the last few years, as the snow bike cross has entered the Winter X Games, your name popped up in my feed. And believe it or not, I actually, over the last year or so, have had a ton of people who've been like, John, you got to get Jesse on the show. John, you got to get Jesse on the show. And it took me a while, but I finally got around to it. And I think I did reach out to you way back when, but we never really got connected. And then you were probably still celebrating from the X Games when I reached out to you the first time. So you're a busy man.
Yeah.
But we got you here today, which is awesome. And what I want to do is give you an opportunity to kind of let everybody know a little bit about you just personally, right? We're going to get into all kinds of great things about, your background in motocross and snowcross and, snow biking, snow motocross, all of that. But let's take a few minutes at the beginning of the show and just talk about who is Showtime the man, right? Like you're in New York, just tell us where you're from. Do how old are you? Do you work there, have a day job? What's going on? And then we'll work our way into all the motorsport stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Name's Jesse Kirchmeyer, and I live in Arcade, New York, and worked full time for my parents' construction company. We're a site company, and a lot of dirt work, dirt removal, that sort of thing. Tear down, rebuilding gas stations. So that takes up most of my time during the weeks. From 5:30 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night. That's what we're doing is working. And then lately, I've been trying to get back in the swing of things and kind of kicking around the idea of hitting up some motocross nationals. So, get done with the work and got to start doing the training and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely been, quite keeps me busy. Definitely, I didn't got no time to get into trouble.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think you mentioned it there, but I was not paying close attention. How old are you now?
21, just turned.
Just turned 21. And
Nice.
so, that's the thing I want to kind of highlight here is that, you're just getting into this, right? Like as a professional athlete, you've gone through it through different groups and categories, but you're at your physical prime in your life right now, and you're starting kind of, and I'm sure you're in this weird, I'll speak for myself if I was in your shoes, but maybe it's completely clear to you is if I'm you and I'm 21 years old and I'm having the success I'm having in motocross and, snow bike and all that, and I'm also then trying to pursue a, quote unquote, a day job and a career, there's this point in your life that you're probably in right now where you're trying to figure out how hard do I push on which one and how long is this thing? Because I think it's generally speaking, racing careers don't last forever. There's a window of time, and I think you're right at the beginning, if not towards the first part of that window. And so, what does that look like for you right now? Is that something you've considered fully? Is this going to be a long racing career you're going to do for years and years and years, or are you more focused on your personal, money career a little bit too? Which you got to be, you got to be on both because it's hard to make money racing. That's for sure. It's more for a passion, but maybe you can make some money at it. What do you think?
No, exactly. One hand washes the other, as they say. And growing up, we've always been pretty much up until this year, I was really able to get some help from some sponsors. But before that, it's been me, mom, and dad have been running the show. So if racing, like you said, it ain't nothing that's guaranteed. So we got to work like we every day, so this way we can go ahead and make sure that this winter we got the funds to be able to do it if if the sponsors don't come in. But like I said, FXR and Timberside, they've really stepped up this year and helped make my dream a reality. And I definitely want to take racing as far as I can, and it'd really be nice to be able to get into the industry and make that a lifelong thing.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So good for you. And I mean, it's all out in front of you, and you got a lot of history already with all of the stuff that we're going to go over a little bit tonight. And then I think you have a bright future ahead of you too. It's we'll get into the X Games stuff towards the end as well. But let me just take a look at my notes here quick too. It's like, why don't we start out a little bit of what has been your history in motorsports? When did your mom and dad slap you on top of a dirt bike or a snowmobile when you were 1 year old, or like what was the age that you first got exposed to motorsports? And talk us through that the last 21 years of what that's looked like for you.
Yeah, pretty much. I was just 2.5 years old, and in the wintertime, we got ahead, and my mom and dad got me a Arctic Cat 120. And my dad used to race for Arctic Cat factory back in days in ice ovals. So,
Okay.
so we've always been a passionate, and the whole family, my grandfather, my uncle, they used to all race for Polaris and this sort of thing. So, we've always been a racing family. So it was just natural when, my mom gave birth to me and I had a boy, he's going racing. So
That's awesome.
My dad's always been really good working on the motors and that sort of thing. So, had modded out my 120. We did some drags, and then that following summer, I got a PW50, and I started riding that a lot. And up until I was about 7, it was, motocross in the summer. It was snowcross in the winter. And then as I started to get a little bit better in the whole motocross realm, we kind of decided it was time to switch gears and really focus on one because, it's hard to do both. They're both expensive sports, and couldn't really afford and give, we weren't able to give them the attention that they needed if we kept splitting the two. So we kind of went with motocross and started going down south in the wintertime to train GPF and MTF and a lot of the pristine training places. And then, I was about 13, 14, and actually with a lot of that training that I was doing I was starting to get little things in my head, my parents, we're putting everything we got into me. And with all that training, I was getting to the races. I was starting to get myself all psyched and worked out, and I just wasn't I mean, I had put in the work, but when I was getting there, I was, everything was just, I was falling apart. I was getting anxiety on the line, and,
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to, put everything together. So I actually took a year off and just went to work. And by the time I got done with that, it just kind of was the switch in mindset that I needed. That, racing, as my dad always tells me, he's like, racing isn't everything, but it's a fun hobby, and that you got to treat it as such. Because if you take it at least for me, if you take it too seriously, it gets in your head, and you're starting to stress about things that you shouldn't be stressing about. And as we like to say, we still got to go to work and next Monday. So just go out there, do your best, have fun. And with that mindset, I went ahead and qualified for my first Loretta Lynn's in the 450B class.
Yeah.
First time there, I believe I finished 13th overall, which was was quite the accomplishment. And then after that, I got my pro license at 17, and just kept on rolling from there. Did the Canadian stuff, and then actually a good friend of mine, Larry Weiersbutt, he was running East Coast Snowcross at the time. And he's like, hey, man, you haven't been on a snowmobile in a while. Why don't you come on out and, give it a try? So I was like, absolutely. Get me on anything with a motor, and I'm in.
So
and
pause for a second there, because I'm going to ask you, like, how old were you when that moment and that opportunity to race snowcross happened? Like, were you 17? Were you, like, how old were you?
Yep, 17.
So 17 years old, you've been running motocross for quite a few years, and all of a sudden somebody you knew that was running snowcross was like, hey, you're a pretty darn good rider. Let's give this a shot and give you an opportunity to do this, right, and see what happens. And so, let's pause for a minute and just kind of go back to that first opportunity you had to race snowcross. Was it initially just kind of like okay, just go do some practice laps, like away from a race? Or did you legit just get thrown right into a race the first time? Or how did that happen, that first few times you got to race snowcross?
So it was it was actually the last race of the race season.
Okay.
And like I said, when we got out of it in 2007, it was like 2007, 2008, we got out of the snowcross racing. So, packed the sleds up, and, we went ahead and put them in the shed, and there they stayed.
Yep.
Well, now it is, 2000, and I think it was the fall or the winter of 2017. I just got a phone call from Larry, and he's like, yeah, let's come on out here. And so we pull the sleds out. I had one blown shock, took it down, got the shock fixed, put it on the sled. We're on the way there, realized the other shock was blown, and it was
No.
Well, it is what it is. So we just showed up there, and we was running 2000, and I think it's a 2007 Arctic Cat 600 in the pro trail class, and then I was borrowing Larry's 1999 called Gretchen, and when I took that in the stock trail class, and won everything on Friday, and then the throttle cable went on the 600. So I was just gonna kind of pack it up, and I was like, I guess I'll just go ahead and head home. It was cool, and then I got the opportunity from Southside Polaris. They, saw me riding and doing really well on these old sleds. So they said, why don't you go ahead and ride one of our sleds? And, at that point, like I said, I've been racing motocross my whole life, and, hadn't really had something like that happen to me. So I was starstruck.
It's like first sponsorship, right?
Sled for, like, I don't got to pay you or nothing. Like, no, just hop on the sled. And I was, yeah, I'll ride your sled for sure.
And the race teams, the dealership and the race team are probably thinking, like, finally we got somebody who can shred. Let's go gill it.
So I went out there the next day on their sled, and won everything, and in the pro trail class, and they went ahead and that's when we started talking about ride for the next season, and that's really kind of where I got my start. And it was actually for snow bikes too. That was my first time on that. A local guy here, Reginald Sauver, and he was kind of the pioneer for the whole East Coast for snow bikes. When everyone else was getting them out west, we just kind of heard rumors of these things, and he actually, went out there and bought one. And, he was kind of just, the Lone Ranger, if you would. Everyone was, would talk stories about this guy having the snow bike and sending things out there that, no, people were even questioning on, snowmobiles, and he was doing it. And I got talking to him, and, with my motocross background, he's like, yeah, man, go ahead, give her a couple laps. And, I went out there, and it was just something that immediately, it was just like, wow, this just felt right.
Yeah.
And I just went out there and, immediately started, hitting all the jumps and just really feeling good at it. And just so happened Southside saw me doing that too. So, like I said, that's kind of where a lot of things got, put into motion, kind of just right place, the right time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so there's something you mentioned a little while back here that I want to kind of go back into and kind of really emphasize here a little bit is you had mentioned that in your racing career, there was a point where it kind of got pretty intense for you and it became personally stressful. and you found that you probably weren't doing as well as you thought you should be or could be, and you allowed things to get in your head, and you kind of probably made mistakes, and you decided to take a year off, right? And so, describe some of the things that you were experiencing. I know kind of anecdotally we've covered it, but like, did you ever get in like an accident? Were you making mistakes? Like, what were some of the things that you realized and helped you recognize were the things that were causing you to realize, like, yeah, my head's not in the right place right now. I need to take a year off. Like, talk about the end of that season, right before you took the year off, some of the things that really stood out to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's something that, really plagues a lot of racers. And I see that with a lot of younger kids in the sport and things. And, it's really just kind of a maturing thing. Mentally, they say, obviously racing is, 90% mental. And I completely agree with that. And I was just kind of getting in my own head. I was going to these races. I was always, like I said, just mom and pop shop. I'm going to these big training places where kids got these, $1 million rigs, and, kids are handing them these blank credit cards. Parents aren't even there, and the kids are running wild. And here I am. I went through, I think it was like 10 transmissions that year. And I was like, I'm 15. I didn't have a mechanic at the time. I had one for halfway through, my good friend Brett Husak, and he had to go back to work. So here I am, 15 years old, tearing apart my own motors and, fixing transmissions. I'm doing everything I can. And it just was a quite, a real toll on me. And when I'd get to the races, I was just I wanted to do so well because everyone had invested so much into me that I was my own worst enemy. I'd be going up to the line. I'd already start seeing this guy and that kid and, knew what he could do and he had this and that. And
yeah, everybody was getting in your head, right? Yeah.
These kids I had trained with, all during the weeks and stuff like that, they'd be constantly beating me out there in training. So I'd just get to the line. I'd be like, well, there's that kid there and this kid's there. And well, I'm probably going to finish 5th and 6th. And, if you're going to be,
yeah, I mean, I'll pause you a second because like what you're describing is you had already mentally lost the race before the race had even begun, is what I'm hearing, right? And so in visualization in any part of our life where we're pushing for success is the key to success, right? I don't care if it's personal, professional, racing. Like if you can visualize something happening and you can build a plan and a strategy for it and you just go for it, that visualization will get you there, right? And when you visualize losing a race before it even starts, that's a bad place to be. And you've acknowledged that, obviously, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it just, and then even once you find yourself having those problems, it's another thing entirely to figure out what it is that you yourself need to change about how you go about, the mindset of the racing to be able to overcome that. And that's where I kind of really was able to, after taking the season off, just working. When I came back, I just didn't care anymore. I was just pumped to race. I was like, man, I got to go out there and spin laps. It's way better than.
But was there something that happened during that year off, maybe in just conversations with your parents or in your work setting, that kind of was just that moment that it kind of clicked for you that is like, I kind of just got to quit caring that much, right? You can quit getting stressed about it. Or do you feel like it was just like you had the time away and it was kind of be able to clear your mind? Or was there a defining moment over that year off? Or was it just kind of the time off is what was the defining moment for you?
I would definitely say it was more or less just a like it just like things just slowly started to come together. And I think is really what a lot of it had to do was just going to work full time. It was just the mindset, the mentality changes. I mentally matured. So, it got to the point where, it became less of like the high schooler mindset of people, everybody's focused on what other people are doing more than they're focused on what they're doing.
Yeah.
And once I realized that it doesn't, I don't care about what this guy's got or that guy's got. I got what I got. I'm going to do it the best I can.
The guy you got to beat every week is the guy that was in your boots last week, right? You got to beat yourself last week, right? And if you keep improving and performing every single week, you are better than you were last week or yesterday or last season. That's what's going to get you better and better. And if you focus on that, you're going to be able to just stay pinpoint focused on the gold, right?
Yep.
Awesome. And so you started the new season. You now have this mindset of like, you know what? This, it's kind of what I've described in the thing is like, you take racing seriously, but you no longer are taking yourself all that seriously. And you can kind of go into it with a little bit of a loose mind, a clear mind, kind of a big heart, and just kind of give it your all. And, I'm sure at some point you probably had some failures and some success. And describe how that felt after that. You got back into the season and you had maybe your first failure. Was it kind of a like, no big deal, we'll hit it again tomorrow? Or was it devastating and you had to kind of reset again?
No, really, yeah. Like you said it the first time, it just got to this point where it was just about being fun,
Yeah.
And as beforehand the
Awesome.
race.
That's awesome, Eddie.
I'm
Just fun.
And, you're out, and now it's like I'm going through there. I'm doing my best. I'm having fun. Okay, something happened. Well, it happened, man. Brush it off. I mean, if you're letting it get down and you ain't having fun, then why are you racing? So just
Amen.
I mean, my trainer, Gavin Grace, like what he always tell me, just whenever things get hard like that, just think about it. Why did you ever start pursuing this? Because you had fun on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's something that I always think about whenever things start getting a little tough. I'm like, man, why the heck am I doing this? And then it's like, hey, man, just go back to your roots. When I was back out here riding around on a 50, why did I do it? Because it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Exactly.
I enjoyed burning tanks of gas on the till the sun went up, till it came down every day.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, and then you said you got in your snowcross season. That went well for you. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to go back to that day that you got to ride the snow bike the first time, right? Because we buzzed through it pretty quick, but I want to kind of slow down a little bit and take that first day and think about it. It's like you've been riding motocross all along. You're killing it on motocross, right? And all of a sudden they've just taken away the centrifugal force of your front tire. It's now gone, and now it's a ski. And I got to imagine that changes the dynamic of how the bike handles a lot, right? Not having that centrifugal force on that front end there. You got a static ski there, and now you got a giant gyroscope on the back of your bike that's now 3 or 4 times heavier and clumsier than what a wheel on a dirt bike is. And so this thing is no longer balanced like a motocross bike would be, but you obviously got out there and you adapted quickly. And so describe that first moment of getting on the snow bike, and like, did you just take a slow lap and then all of a sudden just start ripping it up and lap after lap, or how did that happen?
Yeah, pretty much. I just went out there and, I'm a KTM guy. I was riding a Honda. So, just the first couple of things, just getting used to a little bit. And, I just went out there and kind of just came around, taking it real easy the first lap. But I kind of had it in my mind, obviously it's like, it's not my bike. It's not this. I don't want to break anything. So I'm like, just like, oh, I'm just going to take it easy. And also I'm like, no, I kind of like this. I'm going to go a little faster. Next thing I know, I hit one double. I was like, well, that one was pretty good. I'll hit another one. Next thing you know, I'm, ripping around the track. And a big question people always ask me is, Jesse, what's the big difference between, riding a snow bike and a dirt bike? Do they feel the same? What's the thing? And I tell people it's exactly like riding a dirt bike, and it's nothing like riding a dirt bike, because you got the controls, you got the clutch, you got the shifter, you got the pegs, everything feels like a dirt bike, but when you start moving, it's not. And, the closest thing that I could compare it to is it's like really, really deep sand riding. And I've always been a really good sand rider. Okay. And I'd go to the nationals and I'd hit like Canada, go for dunes, really deep sand track. That's always somewhere I'd excel at. So that's kind of something I would go to in my head when I was riding the snow bike. It was like, in the turns and the drag you kind of just generally feel.
Okay.
In my mind, kind of put that to like riding sand, and that's really where I would start to feel comfortable on it. And yeah, after I got done with that 10 or 15-minute practice session, I was in love.
That's awesome. And so first snow bike race, first snow bike ride, you fell in love. How quickly was your first race? Was it the same week, the same day? Was it months later?
I had to wait a whole season, because that was the last race of the whole year.
Okay.
I had, like I said, the Polaris was Southside Polaris was talking to me about racing, and then, so at that point, like I'm fired up, I'm ready. I want to race. I want to get on the snowmobile and snow bikes. Put me on something snow. I want to do it right now.
You're like Ricky Bobby. I just want to go fast, Mama. Right?
I got a wick now. It's like, so all snow. That stuff just dragged by super slow. And
well, like Ricky Bobby, I'll be worried about you when you start running around the track in your underwear. We'll be worried about you then, right? So.
Tell my pick. Tell me I'm not a player.
Awesome. And so you wait all season and you're probably riding dirt bike, motocross all summer long, right? And then the next season starts. Do you race then just up in New York in a regional series first, like that first season?
Yeah. So they run the whole East Coast Snowcross would run from a couple of races in like Lake George, New York, which is about 3-4 hours away from me. But they're kind of primarily like New Hampshire, Vermont, a lot of this. So I mean, that was still a hike for me, 8 hours and such. But that's kind of the general area that I hit with. That first year that I raced, the only national I competed in was Salamanca. That was the only national I did that year.
Okay. And then at what point and was there anything in that season of snow bike racing that really stood out to you that season? Like any favorite race or any special moment of maybe, I'm sure you won a lot of the races, but any special moment that stood out to you in that season?
That season, the first race, I didn't even start out on a snow bike, because I kind of went in, I was at that point, snow bike it was kind of something we kind of talked about, but, first race went on, I was racing snowmobiles.
Mhm.
And after that, I was like, come on, yeah, I really want to get on a snow bike. And Bruce Gaspardi from Southside, he's like, okay, we'll get you hooked up with one. And the only one we could get our hands on was a Camzo 129 mountain kit. And I'm out here,
Oh no.
trying to race it. And, it worked pretty good, but, I was breaking it a lot because it just wasn't designed, it's not designed to be jumping and getting in the holes, especially a
Yeah.
129. And so I'd go out there and break it, and we'd get parts, and they were great. The Camzo guys was getting me parts and stuff like that. To just, they wanted to see me excel too. And
Yep.
I definitely think that my highlight of that season was at Salamanca. Like I said, the only national I did. I got the whole shot and led it for a lap, and then I broke the kit in half. But for that lap and a half with all the people around, it was like, this is what it's like, man. Like it
Well,
was that.
another Ricky Bobby reference. If you ain't first, you're last, right? So
Actually, the first season of racing snowcross, they called checkers or wreckers, because I didn't know how to really ride a snowmobile, but I knew how to go fast. So I just hold that thing wide open, hit a bump. If I didn't crash and finish dead last, then I was in first. So
you ain't first, you're last. I love it. I love it. So this is a good time. I just want to remind the people who are watching the show tonight too. This is a great time to get to know a little bit about Showtime here tonight. Jesse Kirchmeyer and get to know him a little bit personally. Would encourage all of you, if you haven't done this already, is share the show out, and you can share it to your personal pages, share it to sled pages, your community pages. Maybe there's some snow bike pages out there that you guys follow. Please do so and help give Jesse some additional exposure. I'm sure we'd love to give him some additional fans and some support, and celebrate what he's doing through this last season. So the next things I want to talk about then is, what is the moment in that first season or two of snow bike racing where somebody planted the seed of X Games, right? Tell me about where you were and what was going on the day that someone said, hey, you should run for X Games, or was it your idea? Like, talk to us about the moment that concept came to be.
So it was right after that season that I raced with around the Camzo kit, and we watched X Games that year. I didn't compete in it, and saw the Yetis and everything, and everyone, the timber sleds competing, and we just wanted to get on a little more race ready kit. And like I said, Bruce from Southside, he was great, and he was able to hook us up and get me on a Yeti kit, and went out to Duluth as a team. So like I said, it's my first time running the national thing, the national races. And still at that point, our goal was primarily snowmobiles. I was just, snow bike was just kind of like a hat trick that I had, like, oh, he can run.
Were you running both snow bikes and snowmobiles at the same races then? You just kind of rotate in and out? So
I went to Duluth, and I was running the sport class, or sorry, it was sport light. I was running sport light in Duluth on the sled. And then also, that was my first time running the nationals on the snow bike.
Okay.
And that weekend, I crashed out in the sled the first day, and then they didn't race snow bikes that day. And the second day, they were racing the snow bikes, and I still had to race the sled, won both my heats and the snowmobile, and then had some pretty decent, qualifying second, third on the snow bike, and a couple of reps from Yeti where I was actually out there. And that's when they kind of approached me, and they were like, you plan on going to X Games? And we were like, at that point, we didn't even think about it. We're like, X Games? Like, isn't that for fast people? And they're like, I think you can make it at X Games. And then I kind of, no, wait, not me. And after that weekend, I was all the way out in Duluth. I had to drive all the way back to New York, and we're trying to kind of like, okay, I guess let's do it. So, we get signed up for the X Games qualifier at out in Elk River there. And
yeah, by the way, Elk River, Minnesota is very close to where I lived for a little while. Just north of there, Zimmerman is where I lived, and I was probably about 15 miles from the ERX track where you did your qualification at. So it's my home turf. So I love it when people race that track. So
that track is awesome. I want to give a shout out to those guys there. I did a lot of riding there this winter, and I stayed right at Doug Rust's house. Guy from FXR. He's really been great. He's actually the one that kind of really helped me to get the support and the backing from FXR and everybody. And
nice.
It kind of leads into my first X Games qualifier. Was I went out to Minnesota, or sorry, it was not Deadwood, it was Jackson Hole, Wyoming. That's what it was. I've been everywhere, so it's get things mixed up. But yeah, I came back from Jackson Hole, and I had my $1,500 school bus, and I'm driving, and I had my co-pilot there with me, and we're just getting, got like 6 more hours to go. It's like 1 a.m. getting into ERX for the qualifier.
So I got a really, really important question. While you were driving the school bus across country with a snow bike and a snowmobile in it, were you wearing your cowboy hat? I got to know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Out there driving the school bus and, hauling the sled in the back, and people are looking at you kind of all funny. You just give them a wave and thumbs up, and everyone's laughing and hooting and hollering. And it's,
awesome.
It was a ride. Definitely experience to be had.
Awesome. And I'm going to interrupt your really, really important story about your first qualifier of there to ask a really important question from one of your fans. Somebody says, Jesse, talk about your foosball skills.
Oh, so
take me down the foosball lane here. Let's hear about it.
Yeah. So my father, same thing. My father got me into play foosball a little bit here and there, and
we're talking like table foosball, right? Like
table foosball.
All right.
Every time we'd go out somewhere, and if there was a foosball table, I'd jump on it and play
All
it.
right.
And got to the point where now, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm pretty good at it. I like to think.
I mean, are you like a black belt or like a yellow belt, or what belt level are you in foosball? Because I'm sure there's belts just like in karate, right?
Black belt.
You're definitely a black belt? Okay. First degree?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. My sister and them, they actually had an older rinky-dink foosball table, and no one would ever play me because I'd always win. Well, finally, I played them a little bit, and they started getting better and better, and it got to the point where they'd play 2-on-2 against me, and they'd give me a run for my money. So they bought a good foosball table. So now every week we go over there and we have foosball tournaments, and for the most part they can't beat me, but they keep trying, and I sometimes I'll let them because I want them to keep playing foosball with me. So
yeah, well, I definitely see a foosball gold medal in your future as well.
If the racing doesn't pan out, that's what we'll go. That's the
backup. I mean, you got to have a backup plan. You got a back plan. So, all right, back to the regularly scheduled program. And while we do that, I'm going to remind folks, if you're watching and you have any questions for Jesse, now's a great time to drop them in there. What I'll do is I'll track the questions in the comments here, and I'll be asking them as time goes on here. So let's go back to your qualification day at ERX in Elk River, Minnesota. You show up in the school bus, cowboy hat. Do you wear cowboy boots too, or just the hat?
Totally, I wear cowboy boots. You can't have one without the other.
You can't have one without the other. All right. I'm not even going to ask you about the spurs. We'll get to that some other time. So, all right, cowboy boots, cowboy hat. You show up at the track. Tell me about it. What happened at the qualifications?
Yeah. So actually, just a slight little backtrack there.
Oh, okay.
On my way going to there, and this is kind of sets the whole precedence up for the whole weekend. I was just about a couple hours to get in there, and my cousin that was riding with me, we're shot, we're tired, and I just crashed, and we switched off drivers and going to fill up fuel, and lo and behold, he starts driving again. About 15-20 minutes into it, hits a bump. I wake up, tells me, hey, the bus shut off. I'm like,
uh-oh.
What do you mean the bus shut off? We're in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, the bus just shut off. So pulls over off to an exit ramp, and I'm
so by the middle of nowhere, you mean Wisconsin?
Yes, we were in Wisconsin.
I knew that. You didn't even tell me. I just knew that. You say you're in the middle of nowhere, you're in Wisconsin. So keep going. Oh, I can't hear you anymore. I lost your sound. Can you still hear me?
Can you hear me?
Double check you didn't mute your phone by accident.
You're breaking up a little bit. I can see you. But
there we go. I got you back again now. I'm not sure what happened, but your sound went away for a minute. I got you back.
I'm all good here. So
I think we just broke the internet, I think is what happened.
Hey, we'll take it, right?
All right. So the buses broke down in Wisconsin, the middle of nowhere, and what was going on?
Buses broke down in the middle of Wisconsin. It had a Ford motor in it. They're kind of prone to blowing head gaskets, so I'm thinking the worst.
Fix or repair daily, Ford, right? Yep.
And I'm like, I can't get a hold of nobody, and obviously all the tow places are closed at that point in time, and so we just kind of stuck her out and hunkered down till the morning came, and luckily there was a machine repair shop right up the road, and then come to find out that gasoline got put in a diesel bus. By my co-driver. So he felt horrible, and we were just so tired, and it was a simple mistake, and luckily though we got it taken there, and all we had to do was just drain all the gas out of it, put diesel in it, swapped out some filters.
I mean, I want to take advantage of this opportunity here. I mean, I really pride myself on our show being educational, and I just want to make sure everybody is clear that you do not put gasoline in a diesel engine. School bus, trucks, all of the above.
A little bit.
Like if it's 40 blowout, I've heard that some people will put a little bit of gasoline in their diesel to keep it from, gelling up and stuff too. So that is a tip and a trick, but you don't just fill up the bus tank with gasoline. So that is your educational tip for the evening. Thank you very much. Back to the show.
Exactly. So like I said, went ahead and drained the tank, threw some filters, some diesel conditioner, and, trying to do some digging online, what to do, because I've never had this happen before. Yeah. And everyone's like saying, oh, trust me, if it got into the motor quit, like it's done. Your motor's done. And I'm like, I got to get to this race. I'm trying to think of this. Well, go ahead. Sure enough, say a prayer and fired right up. And, we were fired up. We were good to go. And finally was able to make it to ERX for the qualifier on time.
Somebody upstairs was looking out for you that day.
I got everyone back home, and my grandma, my mom, everyone praying for me, and definitely can't give it out to the Lord above enough for just everything that everyone does for me and he does, and keeping me safe. And that was definitely all him right there. Blessings from above.
All right, so you left the middle of nowhere, and you're now rolling into Minnesota.
Yep, we're rolling into Minnesota, and it's the first day, for the practice, and Mom and Dad flew in, as well as a sponsor of ours, Joe Gambino. Brothers Diesel, just to kind of, because we actually brought him out this way after the races. If the bus anything happened, he was a diesel mechanic, but had one right on hand for me. So we were thinking, and this is where I kind of got introduced to FXR. Was I was running FXR gear from Southside, because we race for them, and one of Doug Rust was there, and he's big rep for FXR, and he kind of sees me. My tattered gear a little bit from the race season, had a pretty rough go at it so far. He's like, oh man, how's it going today? And I'm like, well, it's definitely going a lot better than yesterday. He goes, what do you mean? And then I got into the whole story about the bus. He's like, no way. And that's just kind of, we hit it off right there. And ever since then, he's, that's where he really got my foot in the door with the industry there. And it's really cool to be able to get to all them experiences, and went to the qualifier, and I was able to come out of there with a 4th place. Had a fall here or there, but it didn't matter. The only goal there was to make it to X Games, and yep. We weren't really expecting it. We had no idea what we were doing. We just kind of just had some fun with it and walked away saying, I guess we're now we're going to Colorado.
So how many of the top qualifiers made it to X Games? Like, what did they take, the top 10, or how many was it?
So what they did was they ran a 2-piece qualifier. So the first round would go out, or the first they'd run one race the first half of the day, and the final of that top 5 would go to Aspen, and then they'd do it all over again. And then those top 5 was also going to X Games, and then they had a couple invites that were allowed to go.
Okay. And so how many people ultimately were at the X Games? Is it like 16? Is it roughly like how many?
Right around there, 16 to 18 in the invites.
Yep, absolutely. And so anything else in your qualification or time leading up to the X Games that you want to highlight before we just jump right up to the X Games?
Other than, first it was trying to find somewhere to do some training, because at that point, it's, elevation, all the stuff, like I said, my dad's all of a sudden panicking because now we got to get a motor together. At that point, I was just running the same motor I ran for, running motocross outdoors.
Well, and things people take for granted is, because you're talking Aspen, Colorado, elevation is what, 8,000 feet?
Yeah, I think 85 is the
8,500 feet, right? So no joke, people, right? I want to pause for a minute. This is where my Western riding experience comes into play, is that you're riding what kind of bike again? Remind us, KTM?
450.
Okay. KTM, though?
Yep, KTM.
Okay. 450. I'm assuming, is it 4-stroke?
Yep.
Okay, 4-stroke. Not carbureted, it's fuel injected, right?
EFI.
Okay, so EFI. But that bike makes how much horsepower at home?
Yeah, well, a stock KTM 450 makes 62 horsepower, 63.
Back at New York, you're probably getting most of that.
About sea level,
Yeah, sea level, you're making 62 horsepower. Now you're at 8,500 feet, and I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess that your horsepower now on that stock bike without any extra boost in it is running 45 horsepower now. Oh. You've probably lost almost a third of your horsepower, if not probably 40% of your horsepower. And you doubles that you used to hit because you had the power to burp it are probably now a little more challenging to hit, right? So talk to us about that experience of getting on the bike for the first time at elevation and going like, holy crap, where did my power go?
Oh yeah, Mark Wilson, good friend of mine. We got a track put together up there, and he told me, come on out. I got a track going, and went out there and ride it. And the first day, I was, everyone's talking to me about the elevation, like, man, it's gonna hit you physically and all this stuff.
Oh,
Well,
both that too. Yeah, physically also. Yep.
I went out there the first day, like you said, first day I'm noticing this, man, this bike, it ain't running right. I'm wide open and things are slugging and this and that. And, but I actually felt pretty good. I'm like, oh, this elevation ain't nothing. I'm doing 30-minute motos. Well, then as the days kept progressing, it began to hit me more and more. Like the second or third day, I 5 minutes on the bike. I'm like, I can pull it off. And kid that went with me to help me, he's like, come on, man, we got 20-minute motors to do. I'm like, I can't do that. And he's like, you can do it the first day. So it was just all that a learning curve. I just got getting thrown to the wolves, as they say. Just the stuff I had to pick up being an East Coast kid.
Yep. And so there's, I'll just be honest with you, there's a lot of things that were working against you going into the X Games up there, and you still ultimately came out doing pretty well, which we're going to get to in a minute. But getting out there and that practice time and stuff too, like there's a lot of things to overcome. Is getting used to the bike. You being from low elevation, riding at that high elevation, were big disadvantage compared to people who lived up in that area. Because some of the other riders you raced against, I'm sure, were from higher elevation parts of the country, and they're used to riding at those elevations, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so you've gone through practice, and you're going to get to your first X Games, because the first X Games was what, 3 seasons ago? 2 seasons ago, right? Not last year.
I believe so far they have run a total of 4. I've competed in 2, and there was 2 before me. So
okay, so the last 2 seasons, one of which was probably this January, and then we're talking January year and 4 or 5 months ago, right? Year and a half ago. And so a year and a half ago, your first X Games,
yep.
Talk about the experience. Like, I mean, X Games is cool because not only are you there as one of the racing celebrities, but you're surrounded with all these like A-list names from across the country and all kinds of different sports, right? There's snowboarding going on, there's skiing, there's snowcross going on. Folks like Levi LaValle are sitting up there probably with you, right? Chris Brandt's showing up, he's probably commentating, right?
Yeah.
So give me a little bit of the feel, like what's going on at X Games. You're in Aspen. You're like probably 19 years old at that time, right? 20 maybe.
Yep. I was just coming into it, and really for us, we were in just such a panic frenzy. I just came in there. My dad actually had to fly my motor out in a case on the airplane. He was stuck building this motor. I mean, so I was practicing on a stock, or just slightly built motor that we had. And all of a sudden, my dad comes out there. I got I think 30 minutes on this motor on, running it out in a field up at Electric Lodge. We were just able to get some turns together and I'm like, yeah, I think this works good. And we took it out, we took it back to the trailer, and I actually had a kit that had to come in because I had broke my kit before that. So, Bruce from Southside went ahead and bought me this brand new kit from Yeti because obviously we need one. So he goes ahead, and he's up and gets me this, and that we had to actually give back afterwards. The deal was if I didn't podium, then we'd have to give the kit back or pay for it.
Oh wow, and okay.
So we're trying to get all this stuff together, and by the time it's practice day, I'm at X Games, and but like I said, it was still I was just having fun with it, and it was just cool. I was just kind of trying to take it all in and just enjoy it for what it was. I personally have never really watched any of the other sports, so I mean, not that I don't respect. I mean, 100% respect for everything that they do. I've never had the time or to sit down and watch the other X Games. So people are walking by me, and I'll never forget after I was on the podium, some guy came up to talk to me. I still don't know his name, and he was just, "Oh, congratulations! I see you got a medal. Is this your first time?" And we're just talking for 5 or so minutes, and the guy walks away, and someone goes up to me and goes, "Do you know who that was?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "This guy's like a 10 times gold medalist." I'm like, "Oh," and I was just like, "Oh, that's cool."
He didn't happen to have like long red hair and a snowboarder, right? Wasn't Ryan White?
No, I don't think. I do know him, but no.
All right. But, so by the way, one of your good buddies who you've raced against in the X Games is watching right now. Your buddy Cody Matichuk is here cheering you on. He's giving you a little bullhorn going on.
Way to go! How's it going, Brad?
Cody, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And you've been on the show before. I appreciate that, and I really appreciate you tuning in. So feel free to share this out. Give Jesse a little love tonight. Tonight's his night. Showtime, right? All right, X Games. We're there. The race is happening. Keep going.
Yeah, like I said, we're pulled up in the school bus, and just living life. And like I said, Dad's a fanatic on the bike. Everything's got to be perfect. So we're kind of stressing about this, trying to get that going. Things that we've never even ridden before, testing, tuning, and go out there for practice. And still elevation is still a big factor here. I'm still feeling like, to me, like, man, I don't think I have it in me to go ahead and do this race. But we're out here and give it the best we can. And even up until that point, I haven't really broke out yet in the snow bike scene. I've had a couple podiums, but nothing that really shined out that, like, hey, this is a kid to watch. Mm-hmm. And so, and then in the qualifying, I was able to, I think I qualified, it was maybe third or fourth, for the final. And sure enough, I got lucky and I got a great start. And after that, it was just like kind of like a deer in the headlights moment. I come around that first turn and everyone's behind me. I see nothing but, all the fans. I've run, pro nationals, but this was something different. All the lights, cameras around me.
And you're leading, right? You're number one right now. Yeah.
I'm coming around the first turn. I'm in first, and it just kind of hits me. It's like, I'm winning right now. And I was like, I was trying to take it in, but I was trying to not take it in because, like, I got to keep racing,
focus, right?
Like guys like, Cody, they, won it before, Brock, all these, Brock Hoyer, and it's like all these people, these names, and then it's kind of where, the old me back from when I was younger, things start kind of coming into my head, but I'm pushing them out, I'm like, oh, I'm here. I'm like, so then about halfway through the race, I think, Cody and they're all still duking out back there. And finally, I'm kind of starting to think like, oh, I got this in the bag. And then I didn't have heated bars. And I'll admit, I'm a pansy when it comes to the cold, So my hands, they start getting cold and I start making mistakes, and I'm starting to feel the pressure from Cody. He broke through and he's coming on. He's breathing down my neck pretty hard. And
how many laps is this race?
I believe the race was 14 laps.
Okay, so 14 laps, probably how many minutes are you racing during a 14-lap race like that?
I think we were running, it was 53-second lap time. So, it was a 13-something, yeah.
And at speed, probably wearing lightweight gloves so you have good grip on the bars, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm guessing Aspen's not exactly warm in January.
And it started to drop too, because it was just as our race was finishing, the sun was just going down over the other side of the mountain. So then the shadows are playing into your head, and you're starting to get into some lappers and so you're it's starting to really get to you too, when you're trying to focus and things are fatiguing, especially for me. Like I said, I still wasn't used to the altitude, so I was dying, but I was it was just pure determination driving me at that point, And but like I said, I started to make some mistakes, and Cody was right there to capitalize on them. And sure enough, finally he wore me down and got by me. And then from that point, Brock had caught up to me, and he's behind me. And I was starting to make a lot of mistakes, but I was trying to focus. I was like, just don't throw it away. I was like, you've made it this far. I was like, podium position is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, Bruce had anteed up to buy me the kit. And, if I didn't podium, then we had to pay for it or sell it. So all these things are kind of, it was pressure, but I was able to just kind of put them aside and just, focus and, do the things that I knew I could do. And it was enough. And I was able to ride out of there with that silver. And then it was just, pure pandemonium. I didn't know what to do. It was just crazy. I see Cody celebrating and this and that. All the people are going, wild. I'm just like, to me, I'm just like,
awesome.
Just like, pinch me. Did this happen?
Yeah.
That was unreal.
Such an amazing time. And so, by the way, another snow bike, snowcross racer is watching too. I don't know if you know this name or not, but she following in your footsteps is Taven Woody from Woody's Racing, the folks who are sponsoring our show tonight. Taven's here watching and cheering you on as well. So,
well, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. So you're on the podium. You get in the medal. Like, talk to us about that moment, right? The race is done. You're probably high-fiving everybody. Did they bring you to the podium, like, within minutes, or is it later on in the event that you have to go back up at a later time?
Yeah, it was pretty quick. So, I'm still celebrating. I had a good group of friends of mine that actually flew out to Aspen to support me. And, like I said, we're just all basking in the glory and in the moment and all the interviews and this and all the cameras and things. And they, they're kind of like, okay, we gotta hurry and get up to the podium. And, I was still I was like cloud nine,
Well, the whole thing you were thinking about was like, well, thank God I don't have to pay for that snow bike kit, right?
Exactly. That was the first thing that went through my mind. I was just like, yes, Bruce doesn't have to pay for that kit. Because, really for me, I love giving back to the people that have helped me. So, I mean, that really meant a lot to me that he anteed up and, paid for that and had faith in me. And then, for me to be able to do that back, and have him not have to worry about that, that was just a huge weight off of my shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Now I had that was something he didn't have to deal with. And yeah, just for sure. The whole thing was awesome.
Yeah. Went back to just having fun again, right?
Exactly. Just back to having fun. And
well, I mean, that's a little bit of a life lesson here too, and I always kind of try to point those things out. Is that you've mentioned it, we've reinforced it, and I'll just share with you too from just personal experience through a professional career. That if you can get into a mindset and a place in your professional career or any part of life where you can just kind of like clear your mind and have fun and kind of just not quit worrying about what everybody else thinks and what everybody else worried about, quit trying to live up to everybody else's expectations, and just bring yourself to a point where you focus on you focus on the target ahead of you, like you're always going to come out on top. Even if it doesn't equate to a silver medal, it's going to equate to you having a whole lot more fun and being more successful, and people are going to want to surround themselves with you because, as we've talked about through this whole show, is taking the racing seriously but not taking yourself too seriously. Like, that's an awesome place to be. So congratulations on already figuring that out in your young life. So
thank you.
That's awesome. Good for you, man. And so anything else from first X Games experience that you want to highlight or talk about? And then I'll let you decide. I mean, I'll just give you a call out. We're at 50 minutes already. The show, it's crazy. Time flies when you're having fun. We have no specific time limit, but I'll let you decide. At any point we can wrap this up. But, we've got the next X Games. You went back the second year. Like, over that next year, was there anything that you want to touch on that was really meaningful over that year, and then maybe reflect back on that second X Games you participated in?
Yeah, it was really it was pretty great. I mean, after X Games is when I kind of really found my stride. I had that that confidence booster, and then afterwards we had the FXR, the Dominator race, which was sleds versus snowmobiles, and that was cool because that was, for me, that was the first time that I really got to be a part of FXR as the company, and they put on this great dealer show, and I got to meet a lot of the the top dealers and a lot of the other athletes as well. A bunch of guys were there. It was Levi Lavelle. I got to finally meet him. Nice. And Mike Brown, actually, big motocross guy. He's a legend, and I'd always watched him. I'd raced against him a little bit up in Canada, and it was really cool. Brock Hoyer was there and such, and I'll never forget. I was sitting there talking with Mike Brown, and a guy from Sledheads 24/7 walked over, and it was me and Levi. We were kind of just all there. And he goes, "You, and you, come over here. We need to do an intro." And then also I'm just kind of standing there, and they kind of walk away. He goes, "No, you come here." I was like, "Me? You want me?" He's like, "Yeah." That was, for me, that was something that I really meant a lot to me. I was like,
you talking to me?
Exactly. It was crazy that for me it was just an honor that they thought that I was worth being there.
Yeah. And hey man, I'm just gonna tell you, don't ever lose that. Stay humble, because that's gonna take you a long way in life too. So.
Yeah, my 7th grade science teacher always taught me that. Mrs. Hanson, she always told me stay humble, and I always keep that in my head.
Yep, and just always have that attitude of like, oh, do you mean me? Like, that's amazing. So good for you for doing that. And so, all right, so FXR event, the photo shoot, they were doing it, and then what else you want to talk about there?
Won the Dominator there. That was a blast. Came down to me and Brock in the final. We had a good battle and duked it out. Put on a great show, and then from there, just all the nationals. I won every single race, from then on out, and it was really great. And it was really cool just to kind of prove that, X Games wasn't a fluke, that I was able to there and perform and do it again and again. And then, afterwards, we were just kind of trying to gear up for the next race season. Yep. And we made the switch to timber sled, me racing with Polaris for Southside and such. It just kind of made sense for me. And ever since then, they've been really great for all the support we've done. And, they just changed their kit over to the 120R, and we've been kind of really helping them with the development with that. And it's been took a little bit to get used to, obviously coming from the Yeti to the timber sled, but able to go out in the first race, and Cody was there, and we had the first half of the season before X Games. Cody went to every race, and same thing. Fellow racer Yannick Boucher, he got silver this year, and all three of we were able to every weekend we were just there, and it was a really great spectacle for the whole fans and the sport in itself, especially I'd like to point out Canterbury was an amazing race.
Oh
We
yeah.
had Josh Hill, Cody, Yannick. I mean, Harris Heising. I mean, everyone was there, and I mean, it was Mies. We were all there. I mean, it was just crazy. We had 20, I think it was 24 bikes out there at the time.
Awesome.
And normally, up until that point, up until that year, everyone's like, all the snow bikes are going, and everyone be like, that'd be time everyone would get out of their seats and go get food. But it was like, no, the snow bikes are here, and everyone's flocking out to watch this because it was a great race. They had a great track. I put on a great show. And all of us had some great racing and some great battles were fought, and it really helped to shine, put the sport in the limelight. And ever since then, it seems like snow bikes have been able to get a little bit more of the recognition.
Well, this feels like the perfect time to ask you where you got your nickname from, because I think that's what I want to highlight is, when you can start putting a new sport like snow biking and turn it into what you described there was like, okay, it's kind of the sideshow to now it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this is maybe like the main event now, or it's kind of the way people might look at it. And, it probably ties in a lot to this whole concept of, putting on a show, right? And like you just having fun in life. I'm assuming that's a tie into it too. But who gave you your nickname Showtime, and how does it continue to resonate, obviously? Is there some secret meaning behind it, or is it just pretty blatant and obvious?
Yeah, so growing up, actually, when I was young and on the 85s, on the motocross stuff, every time I'd see a camera out there on the track, I'd always, I'd be in the middle of a race, a heated battle, and I'd make a point to look at the camera, wave, throw a whip, or this or that, and
glamour shots, right?
my cousin Popeye, he's like, hey man, he's like, you're Showtime, and ever since then, it just kind of stuck, and
awesome.
the snowcross races, everyone just started, just kind of caught on, and now it's, I guess it's Showtime.
There you go. Well, it's definitely helped the sport out, and I would tell you honestly, as a snowcross, snowmobile fan, as overall, like I've been probably just as much as a lot of the followers has been slow to follow, but the names like Cody Matichuk hucking himself off with parachutes off of cliffs with a snow bike definitely made people open their eyes to what snow biking is and was. And as much of a stunt as it was, and as much as Cody does it just out of personal passion, I know it put a lot of things on the map for snow biking, right? Something like that. You coming in and being a character that you are and just having so much fun, and the cowboy hat and just the attitude of kind of just having fun and not taking yourself all that seriously. Legit, like if I had to name the top snowbikers, like you two are the ones that stick out in my mind of some of the top snowbikers in the nation right now, and it's for obvious reasons. But I think it's characters or actors in these movies that we're making of life. The snowbike movie that we're making in the world right now, you guys are some of the main characters in there, and you definitely are living up to the hype. So nice job.
Thank you. Yeah, I just always kind of try to keep. I wanted to, every time I'm out there racing, I just I want to put on, and that's another thing where the nickname came from too. Is I want to put on a show. I want to make sure that some guy who has never been to a snowcross race before or any race I compete in, even if I'm not winning, even if I'm back in 10th, 15th, whatever, I want to do a jump or something that makes them go back and tell their buddies, like, hey man, you got to come and check out this thing called snowcross or whatever, because I saw this one dude, he was crazy, and I
That's amazing. All right, so we've got a couple of questions coming in from some fans and some maybe even family members. Is Jane, who's Jane? Is that your mom?
Jane, that is my cousin.
Your cousin. Okay, so I'm going to get to her question in a minute. And then somebody else here, I'm going to see if I can figure out. So I don't know if I'm going to say it right. Is it Thea Kempf Herman? Okay, so Thea is asking, what is your favorite restaurant?
Oh, that would be the Route 78 pub. Local place to get food. Definitely, hands down, best place to get. If you're ever around here, let me know. We'll hook you up.
All right. So it's not Tim Hortons, because Lauren says it's got to be Tim Hortons.
No, that's a close second. For a while, I used to live off of Tim Hortons ice caps. That was a kryptonite. But if I would go for Tim Hortons for the ice caps and 78 for the food.
Awesome. And so I'm encouraging everybody who's watching right now to continue to ask some questions here. This is a perfect opportunity. We're going to wrap it up shortly. But if you have any questions and even some fun questions that you want to ask Jesse right now, drop them in the comments and I'll get to them. Jane is asking me to ask you, Jesse, about your relationship with your young fans. And to me, this is one of the things that I love about true role model athletes in our sports is, they do the right things on the track, they do the right things off the track, they become role models, and you can always tell the ones because they always gravitate to the young fans and, the kids who show up at the races and those kind of things. So it's not something I personally witnessed with you yet personally, but I'd love to hear you share a few stories of what it means to you when some kid walks up to you and maybe wants your autograph or a poster and that kind of thing. And if anything stands out there, feel free to take as much time as you need on that topic.
Oh no, it's definitely something that I like to focus on the kids, as much as possible.
Yep.
I've always growing up, I had myself, I had role models, even just at the local motocross races, just the fast guys and this and that, and there'd be times where some of them, as a kid, you'd want to go up and talk to them, and sometimes some of them might give you the cold shoulder, this and that. And I would remember how that felt, how I thought this guy was the world, and he was, maybe he was busy or something, but he just brushed you off, and that hurt as a kid. I never want any kid to feel that way when it's with me. I memean, a couple instances have really stood out. I was at the Iowa round, and I was just walking up to the podium, and there's this little kid. I can't remember his name, but he comes. You could see he was kind of a little shy. I got all the kid. Everyone's trying to do the interview, and he just kind of starts inching forward, towards me a little bit by a little bit. And I turn around. Oh, bud, how's it going? And I sit right down, and we took some photos and this and that.
Awesome.
And then his parents that messaged me, and they're just like, oh, the kid, it meant a lot to him, and they thanked me for doing that. And and it's not something I'm trying to do just for because this looks good. Like, no, I really hope that kid, I want to make his day. And to me, like I said, I don't think that what I'm doing, this whole racing, I don't think it's better than anyone else out there, any other worker. So I'm just some regular kid, some regular guy, and if I can make a kid's day, that's awesome.
It's the perfect time to tell you and any of the audience members who've never watched my show before what live large means, buddy. So live large, what it means to me and what I try to exude into the community that we have here is live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference to others in this world, right? And you, sir, have hit all three of these tonight, and so you, sir, are in the Live Large family. Congratulations. So
thank you.
That's awesome. And so, Mr. Anything else on the kids and the fans you want to touch on? Either another thing or just I think you've nailed it. So, if there's anything else you want to add before I change subjects on you?
No, I think we're good.
Perfect. So, your good buddy Cody, Mr. Matichuk, he wants to know if you're going to go skydiving this summer.
If he wants to invite me out skydiving, I am all out for it. You give me a time and the place, and I am game. That sounds like fun. I'm here. Like I said, we're working like a dog, and I get to see him out there hugging himself off of cliffs and stuff. I'm like, what? That sounds pretty good right about now. So
So I know he does base jumping and skydiving, and I think his record is pretty much tied up between the two. He's probably now done more base jumps than skydives. But which would you do first, skydive or a base jump?
Right now, I'm going to tell you that I don't think it matter, but I'm sure Cody, knowing Cody the way I do, he'd probably take me to the most intimidating spot and I'm like, hey, right now do it, and I might have some second thoughts. But
and as you're ready to jump off the cliff, he's going to be like, oh yeah, sir, did you want this backpack with the parachute in it? Like, don't jump yet, but put the backpack on first, right? Awesome. So Cody, it sounds like he's ready to go skydiving with you, and then Bruce. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said Cody's got my number, so make sure you don't forget about me.
Awesome. And so Benjamin is asking, what's your favorite energy drink? LOL. I'm assuming there's maybe a joke in there somewhere, but I'm going to ask the question because he asked it.
It's tough, but right
do you have
now,
a sponsored one? Like, is it one of your sponsors? Maybe no.
No, right now, don't really have an energy drink sponsor, but we're looking. I've been trying, and hopefully one will be able to knock on my door. But currently, right now, the drink of choice has been the Red Bull Tropicals. Get me going in the morning.
Sounds tasty. All right, what else we got here? We got another question. As a team owner, I work a lot with great riders. Jesse is truly a great guy and a rider, and that's from Bruce. Bruce Gaspardi Sr.
Yep, that's Bruce from Southside. He's the one who gave me the start and everything.
Awesome. So, Bruce, thank you for what you've done in Jesse's life here and helping him put him on the map. So, appreciate that. All right, so Jeremy says, I will drag him there if you're buying. So, Jeremy, a friend of yours, maybe he's going to go skydiving with you guys?
Sounds like it.
So Benjamin, I did ask him your question, and I think that's it. That's all we have for questions at the moment. And so I'm just going to give you an opportunity here, Jesse, to you've talked about a lot of your sponsors already, but I want to give you an opportunity if there's anybody that you want to thank, whether it be a sponsor, a family member, a close friend, anybody who's really meant a lot to you through your journey that you've gone through. I'd love to give you the time here to say thank you to whoever you want to say thank you to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to thank, Jeff from Moto Z, local bike shop around here. He's gone above and beyond. It's just anytime I need a hand and getting parts and this and that last minute, they bend over backwards for me to get me whatever they can, and just to help support me coming out to the races, and pretty much just they've stood behind me even before the whole snow bike thing, just even as a local amateur back before I was anything, just another kid. But Jeff and Diane, they've done a lot for me, and definitely Timber Sled and Polaris. It's been great to really work with them and the dynamic that we've been building, and been just awesome to be able to help put their machine out front, and FXR, and Jimmy Jett's been a huge one. He's a friend of Bruce's, and it would be last year the last race, and he came out and watched me, and ever since then he's been really a huge sponsor and really helping me and to get me to some races and stuff like that, taking money out of his own pocket, and he bought me a bike, and there's so much that he's done for me. Actually, my website, bought me all, the things for that, to just, really been putting himself and everything he does into me, and just, it's really awesome to have that kind of support from someone like that. And Factory Connection Suspension and Fox, they've been doing great. Fox for the kit and Factory Connection for the forks on the bike. All year we were doing some tuning, had to actually had to keep making different springs because I didn't really know where to go for a ballpark to start with, and they've been great as far as I was the only snow biker that's Factory Connection's a really big company for motocross, but for snow bikes, at this point, not really anybody has used them. So I was kind of the guinea pig, and it was really cool to be able to, at the end of the year, come out with a product that now they can go out and sell to the public. And I got some awesome race forks, and C3 for the entire. They gave me the hand warmer kit, which was a big plus this year because we had a ride our first race. Even asked Cody, it was like -25, and that was cold. And I'm sure glad I had them hand warmers for.
I'm gonna imagine it's a little easier to win races when your fingers aren't ice blocks.
It's definitely a lot easier to ride. That's tough when you can't feel the clutch and you're just kind of off muscle memory. Makes a lot of fun too,
Awesome. So any other sponsors or family members, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Really, I'd just like to thank, the whole community, just everyone around here. They've all really been able to, they've really rallied behind me, and it's really humbling, just to be able to have that experience in small town. It's great.
That's great. And so we got one final question here that's popping in, and if they pop up, I'll see what else comes here. But, what do you do during the summer months other than motocross? So obviously motocross takes up a giant portion of your summertime, free time, if you will, for racing. But is there any other summertime hobbies or things that you're doing? Maybe working with your family business still?
Yeah, if I'm not working and I'm not riding motocross, last summer I just got together. I've been working. My father gifted me. When I was 18, he had a 77 Corvette that he gifted me, and when I got it, it was just a frame and a body. There was it took a lot of work, and ever since then, I was collecting parts and this and that. And finally, after last season, I went ahead and put my head down and built it from the ground up. New motor, new this, new that, and actually my cousin Pete. He's been helping me. I got it running, and then now I'm actually just doing some body work to it and some paint. So I enjoy the cars.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, when the show's done here, I encourage you to go into the comments and engage and interact with the fans as much as you can. But do me a favor, drop some sweet pictures of your Corvette in the comments. I want to see it. So I'm sure everybody else will too. So, and then Jason Kirchmeyer, who's Jason? He's a relative of
cousin from out west. Yep.
Okay. So tell him we love him from Indianapolis. So from Indianapolis, everybody sends the love. So for you on the show. And then Taven Woody wants to know, when are you going to let me drive the vet, buddy?
Keep dreaming.
Keep dreaming.
She keeps asking me, but I think I like it in between the lines, and she's going to get a little wild on her. So
yeah. Like Taven drives the Corvette like she drives her other stuff. There's no hope for it. It'll come back in pieces probably because she'll be just pinning it the whole time.
Exactly. Fiberglass cracks, doesn't bend like metal. So
Awesome, awesome.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. And one final recommendation for everybody: if you've watched the show, you've enjoyed it, and a lot of folks, if you just come on in the last 10 minutes or so because you were expecting our show at our normal time at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we started an hour early tonight. So feel free to kind of, once I hit pause on the show here, we'll be done. Go back and watch it from the beginning. We had an amazing episode tonight. Jesse here did a fantastic job of really connecting with the fans and answering some great questions. And so feel free to share this out. If you haven't already tonight, share this out to sled pages, motocross pages, snow bike pages, X game pages, wherever it is that people need to know more about what's going on with Jesse Showtime Kirchmeyer. Okay. John Ferrian here. Live large. God bless all of you. Final words, Jesse.
See y'all later.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. God bless you. Bye.